and welcome to the Well-Fed Writer. Today we're going to be doing a book review on The Secrets of Southern Girls. And today I'm going to do this review a little bit differently. I'm going to do it more as if I was a beta reader than a traditional book reviewer. So I'm going to go ahead and just leap right into this so we can get on through it. I'm going to give this book 2.5 stars. So this book is by Haley Harrigan. It is her debut. And I'm going to go ahead and say that this does have spoilers. Kind of my initial impression of it, and the reason why I'm going to do it as more of a beta reviewer from the perspective of a writer is that I felt like this book had a lot of good ingredients. They were just kind of like, if I was going to explain this like a baker, they were just mixed up in the wrong order and then not baked quite long enough. So we're going to go through it from that perspective. So to leap right in, the premise of Secrets of Southern Girls by Haley Harrigan. So Julie Portland is a struggling actress in New York. She actually is rather content with her life. She's a single mother. She's got a hodgepodge of jobs that she's doing. She loves her daughter. And she's just kind of okay with how things are, really. That is until August shows up. Now, August is the boyfriend of her childhood friend, Reba. And Julie killed Reba and got away with it, and it stirs up all of these feelings. And somehow August convinces her to go back to her small hometown in Mississippi to find Reba's diary and find out the truth of what really happened. So yeah, that is the premise of the book. So to pause and give you a little bit of background on Haley Harrigan. So like I said, Secrets of Southern Girls, which I love the cover, by the way. This is very well done. Secrets of Southern Girls is Haley Harrigan's debut novel. I think it's actually rather good for a debut. Haley Harrigan is a Southern girl. She's from Athens, Georgia. She has a degree in creative writing and PR from the University of Georgia. And she actually has a really fascinating Instagram, so I encourage you to go check that out. She's actually really fun to follow on Instagram. I do follow her. So what worked in the plot for me? I actually really liked the initial premise. I was drawn into it. I wanted to know why someone would kill their best friends, how they got away with it. I also really wanted to see Julie overcome this trauma that she had. She was obviously deeply struggling with it. And I wanted to find out more. I mean, when they talked about the diary, they were just like, why would she keep this? And, we already know what happened that summer. Like, she said she laid out the truth for us in it. Like, what more truth could there be in this? So obviously there's going to be a twist that the diary reveals. And I really wanted to know what that was going to be. But there was also a lot about the plot that didn't work for me. And a lot of that came from how the diary was used. A lot of information was rather artificially withheld. Like 90% of the info. And I'm going to stop right here and say that there are spoilers in this video. So if you do want to read this book, you're going to need to skip ahead to the end to where I say whether or not this earned a spot on my shelf or not. So I will give you a little heads up on that from this point on there's spoilers for the book. So things like Julie knew that Reba was pregnant. They don't talk about that at all for most of the book. August never mentions it. Julie never mentions it. And that was very misleading. That would have been more effective if they had been open and had discussed it and had drummed up and, you know, really used that to build some tension. And I really also wanted to see, like, this book also I felt like this book also misused the racial tension as well, because Reba does discuss, in her diary section, she does discuss the fact that her father is racist and potentially part of the KKK. And I felt like that was used and dropped randomly. And I thought that was going to be, from the way the book was discussed and some of the summaries and stuff, I thought that was going to be a much larger factor in the plot. And I feel like, especially as a Southern person, our heritage is very heavy sometimes, and I don't want it to be used as a plot trope. So if you're going to use it in a plot, and you're going to use it as a big part of the plot, don't pick it up and put it down randomly. Use it respectfully. I think maybe that has something to do with how Reba's relationship with her family was depicted as well. Like, not all racists are abusive asshole fathers. Racism has much more of an impact when you realize that someone that you love is racist. And so maybe that would have been a way to approach it. But we'll get to that a bit more in a minute. So anyway, I just would have loved to see that line of the story developed a bit more. And I would love to hear your thoughts on that if you've read the book as well. I think that's a bit of a tough topic for me, as I'm kind of thinking through these issues as well and wanting to be a respectful, responsible person and just loving towards all of my friends who are going through a very tough time right now, and trying to be a responsible, loving citizen. So as far as the characters and voice in this book, and something else that was a bit problematic, the voice alternates. It's third limited along with first person passages for Reba's diary entries. So with third limited, you get a very close-up shot of Julie and August and a couple of other characters, and you get to know them really, really well. And that makes a couple of their character arcs a little unsatisfying because of the couple of the plot points that I've already discussed. So Julie's character arc, to me, since she's kind of the main character of the book, wasn't very satisfying to me. By the end of the book, she has discovered this truth about Reba. She's had to recognize that her friend wasn't who she thought she was. And she has somewhat made peace with this. But then at the end, she still gets pulled back into her past by starting a romantic relationship with August. And I just really wanted Julie to be at peace with herself and continue her life under her own power and not get pulled into the past again by starting a relationship with her ex, who's her daughter's father, or into a relationship with August. I feel like that's a bit of a romantic trope, and I just didn't really feel like that was true to this book, even though it had been very clearly set up. I really wanted a little bit more for Julie. She's had so much trauma and pain. I just wanted to see her become a stronger character than that. And with August, we had seen a good bit of the story through his eyes. And to see the twist with him having approached Reba the first time as a way to get back at her father, and to have had that withheld for so long, really didn't ring true for me. It kind of felt like a bit of a betrayal at the end, because as he's interacting with Julie and all of this, that should have been at the forefront of his mind of, oh my God, I might have caused my girlfriend's death. Like, I should never have approached her. I drug her into all of this. All of this got out of hand. Like, Julie is very clearly conflicted on this. She was drunk when all of it happened, and she thinks she pushed her friend into the river and made her drown. And that's just not something that's present in August, and he's not conflicted about it. And then at the end, after seeing the power that secrets have and the destruction that they cause, he still decides to keep that a secret. And that just didn't feel right to me. Maybe other people have a different opinion on that, and I would love to hear that as well. But it just didn't feel right. But I'm also an eternal optimist. I love to see people make the right choices. So that might just be my personal opinion. So yeah, that was just kind of how I felt about Julie and August. Now for Toby, oh my gosh. I felt so bad for Toby. I felt like he was probably one of the best characters in the book. And just for the couple of quick glances that I took at Goodreads reviews after I wrote mine, I think that this was kind of some of the most common feedback that I saw. I really wanted to see more of Toby. This is a guy that after this strange, sad kid comes into his house, like his dad abandons him, his mom basically stops being a parent, and he's kind of just stuck with this mopey kid, and she kind of turns out to be, I don't know what a polite word for it is. Anyway, she sleeps around a bit, and he just doesn't really know what to do with it, and he's trying to find family in his own way. And that portion of his character really didn't come out a lot until towards the end of the book. And I feel like that's an element that I would have loved to see, at least even internally in his head, like throughout the book a little bit. I think that would have given him some depth and some layer instead of just being this asshole drug addict, alcoholic artist. I feel like that was such a trope, the addicted artist. I feel like that really did him a disservice. And if you're gonna make an artist an addict, at least show why he's got the addiction, why he's trying to dull his pain. And that's from feeling abandoned by his family and, why he is that way. Not saying that every addiction has a deep, dark secret behind it, but at least in Toby's case, why that was. And I didn't feel like these things needed to be obscured or withheld. I feel like they could have just been put out there and used to create more conflict and more tension within the plot and to really help us bond with the characters more. I think just, seeing these conflicting desires from everybody and how they're withholding themselves from each other could have actually made this a really deep, beautiful work. And then I felt like Nell as well was a very underutilized character. She's a surrogate mother to all of them, really, except for maybe August. But she knows Julie, she knows Reba, and she knows Toby very, very well. And she's just kind of brought in as a deus ex machina, really. She's got the journal or the diary, and she just gives it to them. She could have burned it. She should have burned it. And she knew that the pregnancy wasn't real, and she could have broken that in a much gentler way. There's a lot of things that she could have done. There's a lot of things that she could have said. And anyway, there's just a lot of ways that Nell could have been used to heighten the plot a bit more. And I just felt like there was more that could have been done with her. Which also leads me to the town in general. It was such a ghost town. It kind of leads me to that Disney problem of the orphan paradox. You've killed off all the other characters and they're operating in a bubble except for your protagonist and the love interest and your villain. There's no one around them. She's all worried. Julie's just all worried about going back home. Why? They see no one. They interact with no one. Like, there's a few people floating around in the background at the bar, and other than noting that August is the only black man in the bar, like, there's, like, nothing going on. You know, she's worried about the girl at the front desk, but there's, again, that never resurfaces. She kind of stays worried about that for a little while, but again, there's nothing that happens with that. I felt like there was a lot of things that were built up and then dropped. And it just kind of, my expectations weren't met. So yeah, there's no gossip to deal with. There's no nosy neighbors poking their heads in and going, hey, you're back. Like, tell me what happened. You see much more activity in Reba's diary entries and through Julie's flashbacks. And it just seems like everyone has died or gone away when she comes back. And maybe that is the case, but there needs to be some explanation for it. Just the world itself didn't feel very fleshed out to me, although there were some beautiful passages about driving through the southern countryside. I thought that was very well done, so I did enjoy that. Driving down back roads is one of my favorite things. So with the twists for this novel, I think one of the main reasons why I wasn't satisfied with the twist is that, again, the way that the novel was built up, at least through the description on the jacket and even the beginning, where it seems like a lot of the plot is going to be driven by Reba's father's hatred of August's family. I thought that there was going to be some sort of big, like, KKK plot. And then the story actually turned out to be like a really pretty normal, like, coming of age, sexual awakening story. Like, I've read many stories like this, and they felt much less dirty. And this story felt weird to me because, like, the way that Reba's family was situated, like, they weren't super religious. She didn't have a great relationship with her parents, from what I could tell. At least it wasn't depicted. She didn't even really respect her dad. She was scared of him. So I felt like if you're gonna go with the coming of age sexual awakening thing, you've got to show a little bit more reason for it feeling weird. And I don't necessarily think that your best friend wanting you to stay pure really drives that, especially since her relationship with Julie as a child growing up wasn't shown a lot. I mean, it's alluded to, but her day-to-day, like them having fun, other than one interaction out behind Nell's shop, isn't shown. So there really wasn't even emotional impact there for me to go, okay, this makes sense. Reba's the pure one. She needs to stay pure. It just, again, that didn't feel right to me. And so just like that hand-wringing over the sexual experimentation, I think that just would have been a lot more better. It would have made a lot more sense if, if one of those elements had been more developed, if her family had been like uber religious, or, if we had seen, her having a good relationship with her family and then being more repressed or more, more traditional, or if she had an otherwise loving relationship with her racist father, or if we had seen more of her relationship even with Julie, and Julie being the wild child, but always encouraging Reba to be the kind of the steady one. Again, having Julie be so distracted and so far away from Reba didn't actually do much justice in this case. I think it would have made more sense to have Reba really lean into that sneaky part, and be sneaking around a lot. And then I think Julie's reaction and her feeling of betrayal would have been a lot more justified, other than saying, oh, hey, you've been ignoring me for a year. How dare you have gotten a boyfriend? That would have just made a lot more sense to me. And then the only other twist was the fake pregnancy. And again, like, saw that coming from a mile away. It seemed more of a cry for attention than someone who's lost all of their social life. I don't know. Initially, I was thinking that Reba was somehow going to be actually really, like, deep into the KKK stuff and somehow changed her mind by falling in love with August, and that was really what I was expecting out of this novel, and then it went a completely different direction, and it wasn't necessarily one that I wanted to read because I've read that ad nauseum. So yeah, that's kind of my wrap up as far as, you know, plot and character and resolution. So next up from Haley Harrigan, there's nothing announced as of yet. I would definitely be open to reading more from her. I think that she has some interesting ideas. She's obviously a very good writer. There is, as far as how her thoughts are structured and all that, I felt like her techniques were really good. I just felt like this book itself needed a few more rounds of revision to develop the ideas a bit more. Ultimately, did it earn a spot on my shelf? No, I don't really feel compelled to read it again or to want to keep it as something to study. So no, it's not going to go on my shelf. It's going to go in my box of books to give away or to donate to my local library. So it is going to go in the donate box. But yeah, so have y'all read it? What do you think of it? You know, obviously my word is not the ultimate word in taste making. So I do want to know what y'all think if you've read it. Or if you're intrigued to read it. I mean, there are lots of twists and turns in this novel. And just because I don't necessarily like it doesn't mean that you shouldn't give it a try. And of course, my pull quote, which I'm always going to do, is, "It's funny how sometimes the darkness settles around you and you forget to be afraid of it." And I thought that was just very thought-provoking. So that is my wrap-up of The Secrets of Southern Girls. And that's a wrap.